Push to Shout 71. We're talking Dark Souls 3. But not yet. First, we're talking about the stuff you don't care about, our weeks. So, Skippy, what's happening?
I played a new game other than Dark Souls 3, and I had to think of it just before we came on air, and I was struggling because it was very forgettable. It's called Adrift.
What's
the
Adrift,
one
Skip?
instead of an I. Do you remember?
Was that? Okay, I think I know
Do you
what it is.
remember a guy named Adam Orth?
Yes.
He was a Microsoft PR representative, and he before the Xbox One's launch, he was making some statements about how great always online is and how entitled people are for not wanting a console that has to always be online.
Those entitled
how
gamers.
If you live in the kind of place that has bad enough internet that you can't always be online, then, well, he wouldn't want to live there, so, like, who cares about you? He got fired promptly after making those tweets and went on to make a game called Adrift with a 1 instead of an I in the title, and it is a bad game. It is
Okay.
a very bad game.
Why?
The concept of the game is, it's basically Gravity, the game, and it was being made around the time Gravity would have been, so it makes sense. But and I like that concept because it's awesome. Like, floating through space and shit is really cool. The concept is you start and there's a bit of space station ripped apart, and you're floating through space, and you've got an EVA suit that you can kind of control, but it's a leaking oxygen, and you have to collect oxygen and make your way through the space station and repair shit to survive, I guess. And it's supposed to be very tense and atmospheric, and it is neither of those things. It's not tense because the oxygen is littered throughout the environment in such a way that it is impossible to accidentally choke to death unless you have no idea what you're doing. And it isn't atmospheric because it's just a linear, like, you're literally following waypoints. If you try to stray off from the waypoints, it will, even though you're in an open space, it will guide you back to the waypoints. So, like, you're like forced through floating fuselages and stuff because it's cooler to go through it than around it, and it won't let you go around it. If you want to update the waypoint, you have to go through it.
Okay. It sounds like a slog.
And from what I hear from the Steam reviews, which aren't all that positive, but are more positive than I thought they would be, the first objective that I did, which is repair 3 parts of the ship, the mainframe and the computer brain or whatever, and to do that, you go to a room and you press a button, and then the screen says, "Oh, these things are repaired now," and then it starts playing really, really awful, I guess what's supposed to be tense music. That's like stereo, and it's like experimental, terrible, awful. It's horrible, and it's grating, and it gave me an instant headache, and I was waiting for it to be over, and it never stopped, and I quit at that point. Apparently, you do that same objective 4 times, and there's nothing, as far as I can tell, there's not all that much that's interesting about the space station that you would want to, like, explore it. It's just a bunch of rooms. It's bad. It's
Okay.
a bad game.
I'll take your word for it.
And the worst part about it...
Did you just say you should play it?
No, you should not play it.
I misheard you.
And the worst part about it is that what should be the most fun part, which is like you're in space and you can EVA around in space, is so strictly controlled that it isn't actually fun. Like, it controls your max speed. So even if you're boosting forward constantly, you can't go more than, like, what is essentially walking speed. But you can waste your oxygen. You use your oxygen to use the boost. And so you can waste your oxygen just pressing forward, but you'll hit the max speed and won't be able to go. And it should be like, oh my god, look at the floating piece of space station out there. This would be tense. Like, do I have enough oxygen to make it there? Well, I'll need to go really fast. And you, like, speed yourself up and launch yourself towards it and hope you hit it. That would be awesome and tense. But no, it's not that. It's bad. Don't play it.
Okay.
I won't. I have to say about Adrift.
Okay. Well, I played a good game. I talked about it for a second last week. I'm only going to talk about it for a second more now. No. Uncharted 2. I played more of it. I was just at the very, very beginning when we were talking about it last week. And I played more, and it's really, really good. Like, it's fantastic. It is such a polished, tight little experience, and it's totally linear, just beautiful. It flows so well, all the animations and the jumping, and It's just a brilliantly polished game. It's really good. And
there you go.
it's just an exciting Indiana Jones kind of adventure. Except instead of like the scenes, the constant movement of Indiana Jones going from place to place quickly, you actually physically do your own stunts almost. So, yeah, it's a cool game. I like it a lot more than I remember liking the first one when I played it years ago. So I'm going to see that through to the end. Really cool.
According to the chat, you're a lot louder than I am.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know.
All right. Point
Maybe
taken.
stand in the corner or something.
Here, I'll turn the mic to the side. How about that? That should help it.
All right, I've got 2 more things before we get to video games.
All right.
The video game, not video games. There's one video game.
Yes.
But I also played some Siege.
Guys in the chat, guess what that video game is.
I've played some Siege, and it's Siege. It's Rainbow Six Siege. I'm getting better at that game to the point where like I don't feel like when I die I have no idea what happened to me. Now I'm starting to understand things. That game's really hard to get the hang of, but it's a lot of fun once you do. But it also starts to expose like really, really serious flaws in the net code and the hit detection, that kind of thing. Like I'm used to the really polished experience of CS:GO, which has very, very few problems.
That is a very tight game.
Yes, like it's even the few problems that it has had have been fixed pretty promptly, and just there's not a lot of bullshit going on in CS:GO, but there is a lot of bullshit going on in Siege. So that's frustrating, but it's still a fun game. I wish someone made that other than Ubisoft, because it feels like they don't have the resources or aren't willing to spend the resources on supporting that game to the extent that it needs to be supported. But anyway, it's still cool. I'll still play more of it. It's got a free weekend this weekend too. So if you haven't played Siege, check it out. It's worth checking out for sure. Or I heard it has a free weekend. That's just conjecture. But
guys, allegedly free weekend.
Alleged free
Rainbow
weekend.
Six.
And then the last thing is season 2 of Serial. Remember the Serial podcast?
I do. And you know what? I'll let you say your thing, but I think I had the same experience.
Season 2 of Serial, I started listening to it. Well, when it was first announced, it said, okay, it's going to be following Bo Bergdahl as like an investigation thing. And I thought, oh, Bo Bergdahl, that's not something I want to learn about. Like there just isn't that much interesting to say about him, I don't think, or his case or anything really that mysterious about it. And I was thinking, well, if they're going to dedicate a whole season to it, surely they've come up with something that's like interesting. And then I get about halfway through it, and nothing interesting has come up yet, and I'm still listening to it going, well, surely they're about to come to like some huge revelation that's like interesting and neat, and they never did. And then and I didn't even realize
that's not how the first season was either. There was no like one episode where it's like, oh my god, something happened. Exactly. The story itself was fascinating in a way that Bo Bergdahl's story is not. And I listened to the first few episodes of season 2, and I just stopped. I didn't really care. I didn't need to listen to it.
Because I was waiting for it to get interesting the whole time, and then I listened to the last episode without even knowing it was the last episode, and I thought, all right, it looks like we're getting near the end here. I don't know what's going on. And then I looked it up, and I went, oh, crap, that was the finale. I've heard a lot of people defending it. I've read about a lot of people defending it online, and I completely disagree with them. Their argument is that, okay, no, it might not be that interesting. It's not revealing anything all that interesting, but you just don't understand it, man, because it's expanding on these themes, man. And I agree with that to an extent, but that's what the first season did so well, is that like, okay, you're following this really, in the grand scheme of things, this really meaningless case. Like it doesn't affect anyone's lives except for the people involved.
Right.
But through investigating it, they come up with themes about society and biases and people's personal memory and how they
that is one of the keys,
stereotype things and stuff.
It's one of the keys to storytelling, like one of the basic things, especially for nonfiction stories.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to tell a nonfiction story or investigate something, you need to find some kind of connection to universal humanity, and season 1 did that really, really well. Season 2, it feels so like specific to this guy in the Middle East,
And the
And
biggest problem is
you
like,
can't really put yourself there when they're talking
Yeah.
about payphones maybe not being in the Best Buy atrium, and you can't remember that. And what time did I make that? That's something that everybody can. Oh yeah, I get that, but not everybody can identify with. The combat zone. I'm gonna pretend to go missing. So
to
like,
be Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
None of it made any sense from a motivation standpoint because the guy's clearly a little bit deranged, and they weren't interviewing him. They were taking audio bits from an interview he already did. So
Right.
you don't have that personal. One of the interesting things about the first season also was that the narrator becomes invested in the story to a point that is way beyond how traditional journalism
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
expect
and
to
you
do.
forgive her for it because
Yeah,
you're doing it
it's
too.
it's interesting, exactly, and it's like, okay, she's open about her biases and how she's become too close to the subject, and this doesn't have any of that because it's all just interviews with people who are tangentially related,
Yeah.
and then those people can't talk openly about it if they're actually like if they actually have good information about it. They're like, oh well, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but or there's some nobody who's just saying whatever the fuck they want to say, and who knows what their motives are, and it
Yeah.
just doesn't. None of it clicks, and it was just awful. I'm really disappointed with it. I mean, I didn't expect it to
But
be the
that
first season again, but it was way worse than I thought it would be.
I'm still not gonna count Serial out though, because that format is it's a good format,
Yeah,
and they'll just keep there's stories out there,
yeah.
and
I
they'll
won't.
they'll
I
find
won't
one.
count it out unless like next season they're like, now we're taking on
Wall Street.
Julian Assange or whatever, like some stupid, like really high profile
Yeah,
thing that's
yeah.
going to be the same situation of like you can't actually.
The little
dig into
stories
this.
are more interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So Serial
All right.
season 2, not great.
done with that.
And all right, Giva Sunner. This is my thing, but I'm sure the
I
general
care about this too.
body politique cares about it. Giva Sunner is back in a big way. He's now Siva Gunner. I think he's not like $1 Million Extreme was when their channel got taken down. They just made a new channel and put it back up, and they made a joke of it. It was a Metal Gear Solid 5 thing, and they released a whole Metal Gear Solid related album of just
Need to
Metal
check that
Gear
out.
music. It's good. It's really good. And the video announcing the comeback is also great. So yeah, Giva Sunner's back, people. He's returned. High quality video game rips straight to your dome. All right, that stuff out of the way. Are we ready to talk about Dark Souls
I've
3?
been like shaking this whole time.
I am so excited to talk about Dark Souls 3.
I'm ready to talk about Dark Souls.
Okay.
It's probably going to be like the rest of the podcast.
I
don't
fucking
think there's
love
any
it.
news or
I
anything,
fucking love this game. This
so
is
it is a very good game.
a return to form. Not that the form was ever lost. It was really just Miyazaki not being involved. We
Yeah.
now have a 4 game strong record of him making a Souls game and it being very, very, very good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he's just good at it. And overall, there's so much to talk about, and I'd like to kind of move, I don't know, one thing at a time, just so that we can. But
I guess let's try to, like,
overall impressions first, maybe.
overall impressions first, and then I guess we can try to kind of follow, since it's a relatively linear game now.
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, especially the early game seems very linear. But so we can kind of move as you go through the game if we want to talk about specifics. But overall, yeah, I basically completely agree. It's different. There's some stuff about it, like the fact that you can travel between all the bonfires. Which
Oh,
Dark
okay.
Souls 2 did.
Before we get to anything, obviously there's going to be some spoilers.
Yeah.
You're not as far in the game as me. How far are you up to?
I just beat the giant skeleton boss.
Okay, so there will be spoilers up to that point.
Yeah. That's probably like I think I'm 6 to 8 hours in, something like that. I do love it a lot. I think that it has changed some of the formula from Dark Souls 1 that I didn't really expect, or it even kept some stuff from Dark Souls 2 that changed from Dark Souls 1 that I didn't necessarily expect, like traveling between bonfires, and some of like the stats upkeeping and how like the blacksmith works, that kind of thing. I don't really mind the stuff that they took, except I don't love being able to travel between all the bonfires. I think that kind of loses some of your attachment to the world. So far, like they've built a really nice little world, but it feels like I'm just moving from place to place to place to place, and it doesn't have that connected feeling that Dark Souls had. But I do like the convenience of it. I'll admit that that's really nice, not to have to like run through a bunch of shit to get where you need to go. But there's some points where it's like, God, like the giant skeleton boss, for example. You get his bonfire, and then the next bonfire is literally through a pair of doors. There's no enemies in between or anything. You go from one bonfire to the next, and then it's like,
Well,
it's like there wasn't a lot of thought put into some of it. They were just kind of thrown down.
having played much more of it, maybe even 3 times as much, I have to disagree with that. I do think that you do lose some of that sense of connection, but overall, the bonfire and shortcut placements have been very well considered. They have the Bloodborne design philosophy, which had way fewer lamps, and you didn't even use them to heal. They were basically checkpoints, and that game was very, very shortcut heavy, which I think is ideally how you want these games to play, where you're just moving through the world naturally.
Yeah.
And they definitely do that. There were more than a handful of moments where I open a door and I'm like, oh, I'm back here. That's great.
I haven't had that, but I think it's because I've come to expect it so much that I'm kind of keeping track of where I am, and you get to a church and there's some doors that you can't open from this side. It's like, okay, well, I'll have to wait until I can open it from that side, and then I get to the doors on the other side and I'm like, okay, here we are. And I expect it, and I sometimes I even keep track of like, okay, there's the steeple of the church, and here I'm coming back to it. Like I've been very like aware of my surroundings to the point that I don't get that surprise. But that's not the game's fault. If you played through Dark Souls expecting that to be a mechanic, then you wouldn't be surprised either from that. So
it's coming, but it's done. Okay, I think the chapel is one of the worst examples of shortcut placement. You kind of have that one room, and you have 3 doors, and you're like, okay, they're all going to connect back here. That is not actually the case in the rest.
Sure.
They're more subtle as it goes on, which I've been very surprised by. This is my, like, the most unexpected thing for me is how consistent the quality has been through the entire game. I think I'm pretty close to the end right now. I'm not, I'd say, at the end yet, but I think I'm coming up on it.
Yeah.
And there is no Lost Izalith. There is no Bed of Chaos. It is a solid, rock-solid game all the way through to the end. And it's not just that the lows are higher now. I think the highs are higher too. I won't mention anything, and I know that recency bias is a thing, but there is a boss that I think is clearly the best boss in the whole series. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I agree that as far as I've played, it's been entirely consistent, like consistently good. It's just there's been no area where I roll my eyes and say I just want to get through this. Every area I've wanted to explore every nook and cranny.
Yep.
And it's been easier, but only because I think I have experience with Dark Souls 1 and 2 enough that like
right, you're better.
I'm good at the game now. You know, it's easier to get through, not because the game's easier, but because I'm better. And like my biggest problem with Dark Souls 1 was not knowing about how upgrades worked and that kind of thing, and how stats worked. So I was just constantly gimped the whole time. Like probably for the first half of the game, I was using weapons I shouldn't have been using and that kind of thing. But now
an essential part of the Dark Souls experience.
Yeah, and I didn't know it was. I was just like, oh, a blacksmith. Well, I don't know what any of this shit means. Like, what the fuck does any of this mean? I don't want to look it up because people told me not to look things up. So I'm just gonna go and move on. Hopefully, this stuff will be explained, and it never was. And that's one of my criticisms of Dark Souls 1 that the sequels have all done better than that. I think that's an unnecessary opaqueness, but yeah, it's consistently good and even great. And there's only been 2 times where I've been like frustrated, but by the time I got through, I
appreciate it in retrospect.
The only thing I didn't like the skeleton boss, and we'll go into detail later, I guess. But like, I thought he was not a very good boss.
I love the skeleton boss.
I thought he was not a very good boss, but we'll get into that. We'll go into detail because we might as well. But for now, that was definitely my least favorite part of the game so far. And I was frustrated at the time with the Abyss Watchers, but I do think that they're one of the best bosses of the series.
Yes.
But that doesn't change the fact that fuck multiple enemies.
No.
Fuck multiple bars, and fuck.
Okay, let's talk about the Abyss Watchers right now. I want to talk about the Abyss Watchers. Okay, so the Abyss Watchers, fucking amazing. One of the best fights in the whole series. Top 10
cool.
in the series, maybe even top 5. Like, really cool. Because you come into the arena, you see 2 of them fighting, and one wins. And you're just like, I'm going to take that guy on. And then more of them start to rise up from the just pile of dead Abyss Watchers everywhere. And then you realize, like, okay, they must just be fighting each other endlessly in this room. And then, of course, there's multiple of them. Ooh, it's a big scary. But if you back up for a second, they just continue fighting each other. And I used that to my advantage. I let them fight each other, and I'd pick the main one, and
You have to.
You're supposed to. That's amazing. It's great. And
It's
then
cool.
and then that's not the whole fight. It's not just a gimmick. Once you get the guy down enough, then all the blood comes out of all of them and converges onto that one point. And now he's a fucking badass. Now he moves like Artorias, and it's this intense, fast, one-on-one fight where you don't have room to breathe. And Jesus Christ, that is an amazing, amazing fight. Very, very well done.
So let me tell you like my experience with it, which was my first time I got obliterated because I just didn't know his moveset and stuff, and I was trying to block, and I shouldn't have been trying to block. And so I was like, all right, whatever. You know, that happens sometimes with bosses. It's just like I haven't learned how to do it. So the second time I was like dodging and stuff, and I was kind of going, okay, now I'm getting the hang of it. And then I get stabbed in the back by the second guy without even knowing he was there at all, like that he would come up. I was expecting there to be add-ons because of the way it started, but like I just got stabbed in the back and I couldn't do anything because by the time he's done hitting me, then the main guy's hitting me again and I died. And then the third time I'm like, okay, I gotta expect that other guy to get there first. So I gotta do as much damage to this first guy as I can before the second guy shows up, and then I'll see if I can kill that second guy to focus back on the first guy. And I just kept dying, trying to do as much damage as possible early on because I expected there to be ads and ads and ads, like for there to be more and more. Because the first time the third
You were
guy
expecting
showed
shitty Dark Souls 2 design.
up, I guess.
And what you got was good design.
Yeah, the first time the third guy showed up, it seemed like he was just attacking me. I guess he was getting through me to attack his buddies, but I was in the way, so I died from that. And I just expected him to be another add-on. I didn't realize that he was. So I spent, I not a ton. Like I only spent probably a total of a couple hours on the ball. Not even that, probably.
But I think that's a failing of you. They showed you them fighting. No, because they showed you them fighting each other in a cutscene.
And I was waiting for that to happen, and it didn't happen to me because when that second guy never fights the first guy ever.
Yeah, he does.
So when he never did.
Yeah,
he literally never did.
He does.
It's the third guy who has red eyes who attacks both of them.
They all attack each other. I tried just backing up to the edge of the room, and they all were just clumped together fighting each other. They will ignore you. Really.
I never experienced that.
I did.
So that's what brings me to my point, though, which is that when you add multiple enemies in the equation, you add a level of chance that drives me fucking insane because it's like sometimes if they're both attacking you, there's literally nothing you can do. If you get hit in the wrong way and they're doing the wrong patterns, you're dead. You can't dodge out of it because if you dodge the first guy's attack, then the second guy's attack hits you and then you're stun locked.
So
that fucking I hated it because sometimes I'd get through there full health bar, never had to use the Estus flask, and then I was ready for the second fight. That was one of the first times I got through it. I was like, okay, this is going to be easy. And then the second fight, he changed his moveset in a way, and I died from like one or two moves instantly. But that's fine. That's how bosses work.
My experience was I died the first time in the first phase with the multiples. The second time, I let them fight each other, and then I died to the one-on-one. And then the third time, I won. It was just a beautiful, clean experience. It was amazing.
And
it was
I've read about a lot of other people having the same experience with it.
A blast to play.
But they've added an element of chance that, for me, fucked me over, and it didn't feel like my fault.
You know, there's more, just minor spoiler. There's a couple other enemy bosses that do that, have multiples. But every one of them is not just you in an arena with many enemies. There is always a way to avoid a direct confrontation with multiple enemies. It's not like that I forget what the name of the boss was in Dark Souls 2, but it was like the abyss thing with the wings, and it made two of itself.
Mhm.
And you just had
Which
to
I had
fight two
a
of them at
problem
that
with
point.
that one for some reason.
God, I
Sometimes
had a lot of
just
trouble
breeze
with that
through those kinds of bosses, but
because that there's just two, and you have to fight them both.
yeah.
But there's one boss, and I won't say specifics about it, but then you can start to use like the arena itself to your advantage to try to manage what you're dealing with. And overall, the bosses have been very well considered. They don't throw multiples at you without some kind of, I don't know what you would call it, but some kind of element of the fight that you can use to your advantage.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that because I've got one more boss to complain about. But let's go back to the beginning and let's.
Okay,
I mean, I don't
that sounds
necessarily want
good.
to go into detail and through the whole game. I don't know. I don't know how to do this, but
No, this I think that works.
the first impression though of that game is so good. That
Yes.
first boss is so good, and
Yeah.
he's easy, but not in a way that's like bad. It's like
Right.
you still feel like you championed because you get halfway through, his health bar goes halfway down, and he fucking turns into this thing.
Explodes into this
Yeah.
twisting mess of
And
darkness,
suddenly
and it's
you have no fucking idea how to deal with it.
exactly
That's
it's
so cool.
great. And what I love is that this game doesn't reuse any of the, because all these games have a gimmick at the start. There's always some early game challenge that surprises you.
Yeah.
In Demon Souls, it was walking into a room with a huge boss that's
Mhm.
supposed to kill you, and unless you really know what you're doing, you are going to die. In Dark Souls, the Asylum Demon drops down and you run away. In Bloodborne, there's a wolf there that's supposed to kill you. But this time, they don't do any of that. It was a unique little twist. I liked it. And then immediately after that, you go to Firelink Shrine. That was a great moment because Dark Souls 2 tried to do the mysterious, vague sequel where you're in Majula, in a different kingdom, and it's not the same world, but it sort of is.
I
And-
mean, in its defense, it tried to make it its own thing.
yeah,
It just wasn't an interesting thing.
exactly.
Um,
And plus, it doesn't feel authentic, really.
No. Well, yeah, because you knew it was.
It might just be because it wasn't able to
Miyazaki on
deliver on it credibly, but
Yeah.
I think one of the things I really like about this game, and it continues, of course, as the game goes on, is that it feels like a true sequel to Dark Souls 1 in the best way, to the point where Dark Souls 1 is now the mythology. And you walk into literally Firelink Shrine, and the first thought when you go in there is like, is this the same place? Oh my god, it's so different, and does it actually work this, you know?
Yeah.
And that same sort of style of building on the original is continued. And I dare not say anything else.
But so, other than Firelink Shrine being called Firelink Shrine, though, it's more like Dark Souls 2 than 1, with the Firekeeper that you talk to that says the same shit over and
No,
over.
no, no, no.
I don't like that.
No, okay. The minor trouble
I mean,
that
yeah,
Matthew
that's
Matosis pointed
totally-
out, which is that you have to talk to her before going to the level up instead of just letting her talk over the level up screen. That I agree with. But
Yeah, I mean, whatever,
overall, Dark Souls 2 was trying to do Demon Souls with its hub.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, I think, does the Demon Souls angle way better than Dark Souls 2 did. Because, the problem... Firelink was great because it was a connected part of the world, and you had to actually physically go back there. But, at the same time, I really never found much of a reason to go back there. It didn't feel like a hub for me. I knew
It did for me.
I knew it was supposed to be, but I never, returned to Firelink just to relax or something, or
It had-
get stuff done.
If you upgraded the Estus flasks at that fire, then you could use it as like a boost for if you wanted 10 Estus flasks
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I ended up going back there sometimes if I was struggling with a boss or something, and then there were NPCs and stuff that I knew would
Yeah,
be there, and
but
I
still,
would go
it
back
doesn't.
to it.
It's not, to me at least. It wasn't that compelling a home base. Majula in Dark Souls 2 was, but only because it had to be. This time, I think they did the best of everything, where the NPCs move through Firelink dynamically. There is a lot to do there. You buy things, you upgrade your equipment, and you level up there. they've managed to keep me coming back to Firelink and wanting to keep coming back to Firelink. And plus, there's interesting stuff around Firelink that
Yeah.
you can do, and most of it you probably haven't done yet.
I've
So
done everything in Firelink.
everything, okay.
Yeah, I can't. There's no other areas that I could explore. But I I I disagree. I don't like it as much as Dark. I like Dark Souls One Firelink, and actually for the reason you said, which is that it doesn't feel like a safe haven. Like it doesn't feel like a home base that you can relax at. You use it as a hub and that kind of thing, but I like that it doesn't feel like home. Nothing in that game feels like home. You know, like it's the truest form of an adventure. You're in a foreign land and you're safe in Firelink Shrine, but it's not like there's still enemies 50 feet away, and if you want to go to the blacksmith, you have to go through enemies. And I like that about it because it feels like Dark Souls. It feels like that's part of the personality of the game is this kind of oppressive feeling. And I'm not saying that Dark Souls 3 has to be that way.
I won't say anything else here because it'll spoil.
Sure, but it's I like that about Dark Souls 1 more. I like Firelink Shrine. I don't like the way that I liked Bloodborne's hub, and that was really more like Demon Souls because you're going from like
That's a totally
Gravestone to
disconnected place.
but
All I will say is that I think you're wrong, and I have a good reason to think that you're wrong.
and we'll talk about it when I get farther through the game, I
Yeah,
guess.
probably next week.
Yeah. But so far that's Dark Souls 1 as a world I like a lot better than 3, but I don't dislike 3. It's just different.
True.
It doesn't have the personality that I think 1 has.
One of the things that the first one did very well was make it feel like a kingdom that you were exploring from the bottom up.
Yeah.
This, one of the things I find interesting is that you start from the top and you move down.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, I don't think this is a spoiler. You'll go back up.
Oh no, that's definitely not a spoiler. I could tell.
And
it's
that
cool,
that trip is very, very well done. And it does, I think, by the end, they've built a very credible world.
Yeah. It's cool. I like that they turn a lot of stuff, like your expectations and stuff, on your head a little bit, where essentially the way that this game moves, you're going from Anor Londo down to Sin's Fortress and through, like you're kind of going backwards, because it's that same kind of cutscene where like the things grab you and fly you over to the next area, and you're going from a well-lit high kingdom down to the dregs, and it's cool that that's just I mean, it's a minor thing, but it's just backwards, and that's kind of neat. And it creates a totally different feeling because it's like you get used to that well-lit place. You go down to the undead village, which is really run down looking and rustic, and then you go deeper into the actual woods, and it gets darker. And then when you're down in the swamp, it's completely dark through like the coverage of the trees. And the coolest part to me, actually one of my favorite parts of the game, was just climbing up that big ladder onto part of the bridge where you go above the treetops and suddenly everything's light again.
Yeah.
And like looking around for the fires that I haven't put out yet, that was really cool to me because it was just like that it does that sense of world that I liked about Dark Souls 1.
That I think is one of the successes in world design that this game has over Dark Souls 1. Is that Dark Souls over Dark Souls 1. That, of course, in the global world of that game, I think it felt more connected. But within individual areas, they felt kind of like you do this and you go this way. Here, the individual areas are more open, more Bloodborne-esque in their design.
I do like that, yeah.
So, yeah, I think, I don't know, the places are so huge, and not emptily so, that I think it kind of is I don't know if a trade-off is the right word, but I think it does the individual areas better than Dark Souls 1 did, if it doesn't do the world as well.
I will agree with that, yeah. I like the individual areas a lot more. The way that you move through them feels very organic, even though sometimes I think you are being kind of guided. You feel like you're making choices, and it's like so far it's been perfect every time where there's like a branching path or something like that, and I'm like, okay, I don't know which way to go, and I choose one, and it ends up going a lot farther than I hoped it would because it's like, oh god, I've been away from a bonfire for a long time. it always ends up wrapping back around in some way at the perfect moment
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, it hasn't been too long or too short. It's just been long enough to make me stress the fuck out,
Right.
but not frustrated, and that's really great.
And that has stayed true the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. I so far it's been like that, and I love that about it. And then and there's some clever things like the catacombs. You go down, you go all the way around, and then you realize, oh, there's some ledges that I can just drop down.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I die, there's a shortcut that you didn't even really unlock. It's just kind of something that you would have to really look around for to see it from the beginning. That's cool. There's been a lot of the individual areas are better, the best in the series, I think, even better than Bloodborne. I
Bloodborne.
really like the design of it.
The first area in Bloodborne, I think, is the high point of the series in level design, but it wasn't able to maintain that level of polish and interconnectedness. Like the rest of the game wound up being somewhat more linear. That is not the case here, and I've played a lot more, and I don't want to keep coming back to that, but it seems like they almost spent their attention in the opposite way that they did in Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1, they clearly started from the early game and polished it, and by the end, that just wasn't there.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I think that this game improves as it goes on. The areas become significantly more complex and detailed. It's just, this is a much more professional game. Like, this feels like a very mature design. Something that they've figured out how to do this, and it's paid off.
Yeah, so far I have gotten that impression too, where it's like, this is a polished form of what they're already good at. And yeah, that's all right. Is there anything more to talk about Firelink in particular, like the NPCs?
Firelink
so far,
specifically, not that I can tell you.
Yeah, so far, as far as the NPCs going, I'm still kind of in the process of building them up, and I've kind of seen some interaction between them, kind of,
Yeah.
When you come back and someone's in a different spot and they're saying something different, you're like,
and that's really nice.
Weird going on
it's
here.
Nice.
Yeah, that's always cool. There's one in particular, spoilers, because I don't want to spoil this for anyone who hasn't experienced it, but the Pilgrimer dude,
Yol, yeah.
the guy who's going on the pilgrimage,
Yol of
and
Londor,
and he can transfer his strength to you. Did you do that?
I didn't, but I Michael in the chat right now, he's done it, and so I know what it is and how it works.
Yeah, I did it a couple times, and I was thinking, this seems like kind of overpowered.
Yeah, what's the catch?
Souls.
What's the catch?
I'm leveling up. Yeah, I knew there was a catch. Didn't know what it was. I go and I level up at the bonfire lady, and I run out of souls to use, and I'm like, all right, I might as well go down there and level up again. And he's just dead on the floor, and I'm like, oh my god, no, I killed him. That is really cool. That's a classic kind of Dark Souls thing. And I know there's gonna be more stuff like that because I'm already seeing like some of the NPCs. It's like, oh god, I know that you're gonna do something horrible, but I don't know to whom or when.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's They know that you expect that, but they keep it. I love that they play with your expectations in that way, and
definitely.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And the little king dude, what is his name? Do you remember the guy on the throne?
It begins with an L.
I like him a lot. I like his little voice actor and stuff. Like
he's good, and it's
he's
like
sinister in a weird way.
Yeah, it's like,
he's very weak, but
why are you here? And are you really the real guy? I assume he is, but it just, it's very strange that one of them is just there.
I assume he has some really, really evil motives. I don't trust him at all, and
neither do I.
It's cool. I like that a lot, and I also don't trust the bonfire lady.
She is. I think
Ludicrous.
She's not particularly great, in my opinion.
As a character?
Just as a presence in the game.
Yeah, I don't like her at
all. The abandoned doll in Bloodborne
was cool. That was cool.
Especially the Maiden in Black in Demon's Souls.
That sucked.
You thought she sucked?
The Maiden in Black, and what was her name?
That's the Emerald
in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Maiden in Black in Demon's Souls.
I know who that is, but
she was great.
Demon's Souls, so I don't know. But the one I hated the one in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, she was kind of annoying,
more than
but
this one.
Still, at least I don't know. I think that they're about equal in terms of personality, but I was just expecting a little more
Yeah, I
from
liked the doll
that.
in
The
Bloodborne
doll
because there
was
was
fantastic.
something weird going on there that I really liked. Yeah.
Yeah, just immediately,
Uh,
like the presentation of all that. The first time you go there, she's lifeless, and
yeah,
then you
it's
come
really
back,
cool.
and then she's standing and talking to you. It's very well done in Bloodborne.
Yeah, and then you find the place
Oh
in the
God,
real
that was
world.
great.
That's so cool.
That was one of the best moments of that
Yeah,
game.
definitely, I agree. But yeah, this lady, I hope that there's something up with her because, and I'll tell you why I think there is. You go through, you buy the key to go through the rest of the area in Firelink, like over the bridge and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you, there's a really hard to get unlockable or not unlockable pickup, like on one of the little ledges that you have to drop down to get to, and uh, it's it's a firekeeper's robes. Um, and they're dark. They're like black or something. And the description says, uh, firekeepers would be given black or firekeepers who took pleasure in the darkness of things wore black robes or something weird like that, like something kind of sinister. And she's wearing dark clothes, and you find the other firekeeper, and she's wearing light clothes, and so there's a deliberate choice there to
Yeah.
give her black clothes, and I don't know what it is. And then there's like a weird thing where like, you get the other Firelink's soul or Firekeeper's soul, and like she takes it into her own. I hope
yeah,
that there's something there, but we'll see.
there is.
Okay. So yeah, that's interesting. I the mystery so far of that game it's really been fun to kind of unlock.
Yeah,
mysteries
it feels like
and
there's
explore into them.
there's some credible reality underneath what
Yeah.
you're playing, that you're figuring something out. There's a mystery, and you're
Yeah.
getting to the bottom to it, one cryptic step at a time. Cryptic,
Pretty
tremendous lore.
And also, and this is out of nowhere, but I just remembered. So far, like one of the coolest things has just been when you first get what do they call it? When you have an ember.
Ashen, ember restored,
Ember restored. There's like a term for like having your ember restored.
unkindled,
Anyway,
kindled.
unkindled, I guess would be the
Yeah.
term for it. Yeah, that's such a cool effect.
Yes, it is.
The first time I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" Like it just looks so fucking cool. It's great.
That's one of the more interesting things, that all of these games have, like, all of them except for Bloodborne and Dark Souls 1 had some kind of subtractive effect on your health. And even Dark Souls 1 made you hollow when you didn't
Yeah.
have your humanity.
And Dark Souls 1 had
they all, they all,
curse too.
yeah, they all subtracted from you in some way. This game, unless you do the Yol thing and start hollowing like that,
Yeah.
then you're just a regular looking dude. And
Yeah.
the embered form that enables PvP and summoning and all that, that actually makes you start glowing on fire. It adds something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it makes you
It's
feel
cool.
like stronger, and it does add to your health too. I think.
Yeah, and it feels like, unlike with Demon Souls felt like you were at half health at all times.
Yeah.
And Dark Souls felt you were at full health at all times. This time, it feels like you're at full health, but then you can ember and just be
And it feels like a bonus.
stronger.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
feel like this is the way it should be. It's like this is better than the way it should be.
Yeah, so much of this game just feels balanced in the right way, and
Yeah.
Titanite is one of the ways I think this game has succeeded greatly.
Yeah.
It's carried over the mechanic from Bloodborne, where you don't have to upgrade your armor, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, me too. I
God,
like that.
it is great because you can just put on whatever armor you want at any time, and that's fantastic. That's beautiful. You shouldn't have to sink Twinkling Titanite, which is a super rare resource in every game, into armor and then lose it if you decide to change to something else. Here, you can put on whatever you want, just based on how it looks or its stats at any time.
Yeah.
Bloodborne, you could do that, but they were all kind of just clothy things. This game, the armor is diverse and cool, and
I'm switching armor depending on like what I'm fighting and like
Yeah.
what area I'm in, and
and
stuff.
you just have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
Weapons you can upgrade and become attached to, but even then, they've greatly increased the amount of Titanite in general that is dropped.
Yeah.
And that is also fantastic because
Yeah.
it means you don't have to lock into one weapon. You can just sink Titanite into stuff and try other things out,
I
and
still feel a little bit
it's
locked
great.
in. Like I didn't upgrade until I found a weapon I was happy with, and now I kind of feel locked in.
You'll
It's
feel
like, well, I don't
less
want to have
locked
to
in as you
upgrade another
go
one.
because
Yeah,
they
I figured I
increase
will.
as you move on. Of course, whatever like new tier of Titanite that you need to push it to the next level is going to
Yeah.
be rare still. But they make the older tiers, like the
I've
regular
al-
Titanite shards, they make those more common.
Yeah, in the
So
last hour or so, I've been picking up a ton of Titanite.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
you can bring your. Yeah, exactly. They make it feel like, okay, if you want to push weapons to the next level, you're going to need to make a careful decision. But if you just want to bring a weapon up to par, that's easy. And that is
Yeah.
the perfect way to balance weapon upgrades.
Yep, that's very very well done, and I think it's really interesting the idea of like you said, where in Demon Souls you're always at half health. You always felt like you weren't as good as you could be. That's a deliberate choice. I don't necessarily think that's a bad choice. It's frustrating, but it kind of is supposed to
It's
be.
just a different choice.
Yeah, but it speaks to the way that they've kind of gone a completely different direction thematically, and how you're supposed to feel with Dark Souls 3, where it's like Dark Souls 3 is playing off of that I'm a badass kind of feeling that you get when you finally beat a boss in any of the games. But I think it kind of takes it not to a new level, but it takes it to an extent where it's like constant. Even when you're not beating a hard boss, it's
Yeah.
like you always feel good.
More so
I-
than any of these other games.
Yeah,
It feels like the world is dying.
yeah.
It feels like everything's over. This is the end.
I think Dark Souls 1 did a pretty good job with that.
I don't know. I think this is even better at that specifically, especially in the way it's able to play off of the older games material, and a lot of
Yeah.
that you haven't encountered yet.
I mean, Dark Souls 1 felt like a world that had already kind of died, but this one, yeah, with the whole first area being like covered in ash and all that stuff, it definitely has. We'll see. I know that there's more to come, so yeah, I'm excited. I definitely want to explore this world more
Yes!
than I think I have with
God,
any of the
right?
other games. So yeah, at Dark Souls 2, I never got the feeling that I wanted to explore the world. God, what a terrible.
Oh shit! What
fucking-
comes next? Mud Hill. That
It's the lava level. That's what it is. Yeah, that shit was annoying. So yeah, let's see.
I want
Let's
to talk about
bosses real
Yeah, I was about to say, let's talk about bosses. Bosses, I think, are consistently the best, and obviously you haven't gotten to the one I'm talking about, but I think that the best boss is the best there ever was. Like, the bosses in this game are the best in the series.
And I believe that because some of them have already been. I think the Abyss Watchers have been like they're definitely up there in like the top 5 like coolest bosses.
Oh, yeah.
Conceptually, they're probably my favorite. Just the whole like eternally fighting.
Yeah.
It's a fucking awesome idea. I love that. So I beat on my first try. I beat the first 2 bosses, and what's the third boss?
There's Eudex
be-
Gundar, there's the Vort of the Boreal
Yeah.
Valley, and then there's the tree.
Oh yeah, the tree. Yeah.
The tree so far has been the worst boss. And even that was still fine.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. Like,
Yeah.
kind of whatever.
He was not a bad boss. He was not even
No.
just an okay boss. He was an interesting boss, but
He
just
would
not
have
as
been
good
a-
as the rest.
He would have been a bad boss if he was super hard.
Yeah,
But he was
right.
tough, but not like ridiculously hard. You just kind of have to figure out like, okay, here's what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's cool that like you drop down into the pit. By the way, did you get to that pit before the boss fight?
No.
Oh my god! So
Can
I'm
you?
just gonna flat out tell you.
Just
what
tell
you
me.
missed.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause
There's an area in the undead village where like you know the part where like all the things are on the roof with the blow darts and it's really
yeah,
annoying.
yeah.
If you go up on one of the roofs and or you either go over the roof or like around the house, I don't remember. It's kind of a hidden area, and it's the first time I came across one of those guys that walks with the saws, and holds it with both hands. He's got a cage on his back, and I kind of walk towards him, and I'm kind of trying to avoid him because he looks like a really tough enemy at that point. Like I hadn't seen one before, and he's not attacking me. And I'm kind of in a corner where he's coming closer to me, but he's not attacking me. and he's like, he gets to the point where he's kind of right next to me, and he's clearly an enemy because like I can lock on and everything, but he's not attacking me, and he turns around and starts walking away. And I walk up to him to backstab him, and a prompt shows up, and I forgot what the prompt said, but I pressed A or B or whatever, and I got in the cage on his back.
Oh,
And he walks off with me just in the cage. It's really weird.
that's cool.
And then he dumps you into that pit. And there's a whole pile. If you look at the back of the pit, there's a whole pile
Oh, yeah,
of
yeah.
cages. And so he dumps you in there, and there's a guy down there, and he's kind of crazy, and he laughs a lot, and he talks about like he's a covenant. He's one of the covenants.
Really?
And he's talking about like being crazy and how being hollow makes you mad and that kind of thing, and it's some kind of PvP covenant where it's like,
Is that where you get the Mad Phantom thing?
yeah, I guess
Because I've
so.
seen Mad Phantoms around, and I don't have it myself.
That's probably what it is, because like I'm a mad phantom, I guess, because I've got whatever he gives
Are you purple?
Probably. I haven't invaded anyone.
Oh,
but
I
yeah,
have. And that, oh
I
god,
need to.
I'm glad you reminded me, because we got to talk about that.
The PvP so far has been fantastic.
Oh,
in
yeah.
my
Oh, yeah.
experience. Yeah, but yeah, that was just really cool, and yeah, it was really cool when you drop down in the boss fight, and I realized I'm in the same spot, and I'm like, oh, here's where I was. That was neat. But yeah, so lots of cool little secrets like that are really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, the boss fights, God, they have been pretty good. The first one especially was really good. The second one was whatever, it was a boss fight. And the third one was whatever, it was a boss fight. And then
I don't know. Maybe you consider it a spoiler, but it's probably a good feeling to know that they stay good.
yeah,
Because these games, they don't stay good for the most part. Even Demon's Souls didn't.
Yeah, Dark Souls. I think Dark Souls gets a little more criticism than I think it maybe deserves about the late game. For me, the late game flew by pretty quickly, and I liked Anor Londo as an area, and I liked what's the library?
Duke's Archives.
Yeah,
Duke's
I liked
Archives
Duke's
is cool.
Archives. And those are two major areas that people consider the last half of the game being the bad part, but those are two of my favorite areas in Dark Souls. It's the Lost Izalith and stuff, but that stuff flew by for me. I had no problem with any of it. Like I wasn't running into issues with it.
Yeah, but it was still outstandingly bad.
It was outstandingly mediocre.
No.
It was totally forgettable.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that bad.
The second that I started running across solid lava, and that's what you're supposed to do, I was like, okay, this is stupid. This is really stupid. And then when I rounded the corner and there's a bunch of dragon butts just standing there, and
Yeah.
I thought this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, or at least comparatively to the rest of the game. Like,
whatever. I didn't hate it. Like if I had been frustrated with that area and it was a stupid area, then maybe I would have hated it. But like I just went through it and had no problem with it and forgot about it pretty promptly. I thought it was cool too. If you look at when I realized, and I think it took like some research to finally find this out, but I was trying to figure out, you go through the catacombs. I'm talking about Dark Souls 1. You go through the catacombs and you kind of come to like an open area underground.
yeah,
And you can see like what looks like a man-made structure of like a dome or whatever. And
yes,
that
is that where
the
Pinwheel
ceiling.
is?
Yeah, it's after
Yeah,
Pinwheel.
okay.
And that's the ceiling of Lost Izalith. And if you look up, you can see the
Oh,
same
okay,
shape.
no, I know what you're talking about. When you can see out, you're in the I forget what it's called, but
It's like right
it's like
after
the
the
dark
catacombs.
area.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
giant
that's what I'm talking
something.
about. I don't know.
Yeah, and then you can see out. It's almost like
Grave
a
of the
balcony.
Giants.
Grave of the Giants.
But yeah, I think it took a video that like
Tomb. I think it's
someone
Tomb
took
of
a
the
3D
Giants.
model of the Dark Souls world, which is fucking incredible to see, like how interconnected it all is
Yeah.
and how it's designed and how like it's all leveled and everything. And that made me appreciate it a little more because it was like,
It's actually at that place.
yeah, and it's the kiln of the world of Dark Souls, and just like it had an importance that would have been easy to miss.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it wasn't given its due as an important thing, but as far as like design goes and everything. But I didn't hate it. But anyway, whatever. Enough about Dark Souls 1. Yeah, Dark Souls 3.
Well, those comparisons keep coming up because this
And they
game
should, yeah.
lives up to that.
Yeah.
It's nice. And, some people became skeptics, rightfully so, of this series when they played Dark Souls 2. And I wasn't one of them, but I'm glad that I'm sort of vindicated for not being skeptical.
I never felt like I was not nervous about Dark Souls 3. I knew it would be
Yeah.
good. I thought maybe it would be a little bit disappointing, but not to the level of Dark Souls 2 and like whatever. I knew it would be good.
Kai Tulau in the chat, I am in the secret area right now.
All right.
PvP. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
This will be the best PvP experience in any of these games for many reasons. One is just that it works. It works quickly, perfectly, and immediately. I did summons with other people. I didn't summon myself, but I put my white sign down, and that worked almost immediately. Someone pulled me into their world, and it just worked. That was within seconds. And I tried the password system, which they introduced in Bloodborne, but I could just never get it to work.
Yeah.
I could just never find games, and even when we had the same passwords, it just wouldn't work, and it was really frustrating. And then even when I would get into a game, the netcode was terrible. This, I put my password down, my buddy put his password in, I put my sign down, and just immediately he's like, oh, I see it. He summons me in. And
That's nice.
that has been my experience with every time I've tried to do this.
I have had, and I guess I'll talk about the boss too. I did summon for the skeleton boss because I was like, fuck it, I just want to get through this.
Pussy boy!
Yeah, and
How did you need a summon for that?
I don't think I need
bracelets.
one. I died twice and I said, all right, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'll tell you why, and I'll get to that in a second. So the summon signs, a lot of them were failing instantly for no reason. I guess people were getting to them first, maybe. But like they'd show up and I'd run over to one and press summon, and it would go because summon failed instantly. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But maybe it was just a high demand area or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, I did get summons pretty much without problem pretty quickly in that area, so it worked fine. The reason I summoned, I want to talk about this boss. I don't think he's a
High
good
Lord
boss.
Volnir. I think he is.
So I figured out extremely quickly to attack his bracelets. That much is very obvious. They're glowing, and all the signs around the area say, "Look for the bracelet" or whatever. Hit the rings, and so conceptually that wasn't the problem. Then he spits his little mist, and that kills me like pretty much instantly. And
that killed me the first time, but you just run up.
Yeah, so that killed me the first time, and then I was like, okay, I can avoid that. And I ran up after he spit his mist, and then he does the crawl forward thing, and I attacked his wrist a couple times, and then he did the mist again, so I ran up, and he crawled forward twice, and then I found I was at a wall to my back. And I'm like, okay, I can't run up anymore. And so now I'm just having to dodge his attacks, and I'm attacking his wrists, but they're kind of glitching through the wall, especially on his right hand. And I'm going, well, what the fuck is going on? I can't even hit it because it's inside the wall. And then he spits his mist, and I'm going, well, what the fuck? I can't go anywhere. I can't go up anymore. And I died, and I was just like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever had to fucking do.
I suppose, but for me, I fought him 3 times. The third time, I killed him right when he was at the top. Like, it was spaced and paced perfectly so that's where I was at the end. And I remember thinking, oh shit, if I don't end this now, I'm dead. Because there's nowhere left to go.
Yeah.
But I guess I can see that if you're doing it slightly slower, then you'll get to this stupid place where you're still alive, but there's nothing left to do.
Well, that's what it felt like. What it felt like was like, okay, I can see that this boss is like, has a pacing to it, has a timing kind of thing to it, where like that's the end of the line and you're gonna die if you spend too long up there.
I think it would have been cooler though if it was an endless slope. I think that would have been more interesting.
It would have been interesting if you're gonna make the slope end. The biggest problem was just that his right hand with the ring on it, he would either have it so far back that it's in the mist, so you're dying when you're trying to hit it, or he attacks and it goes forward and it was glitching through. Maybe this was just a really unlucky thing and maybe it doesn't happen every time. but it was glitching through a rock where I couldn't hit it. I was just hitting the rock, and I was like, I can't hit this ring, and then I died, and that sucked. And the skeletons start to come, and so even if you could hit it, it's like there's fucking skeletons everywhere, and they're the powerful ones that do a shit ton of damage, and that was just, I just didn't even want to deal with it anymore.
I don't know. Maybe you're just
and
bad.
maybe I actually think I beat him. I might have beaten him without a summon, actually. Or
No,
I summoned someone and they died instantly. I don't know.
I can
definitely
understand that.
I
'Cause-
definitely beat him under tense circumstances where I was like, oh god, he's gonna get up against the wall again. But I think I figured out where, like, it seems to me like if you don't pull back too much when he does the mist and everything, you won't do the crawl forward. Like if you
Yeah,
rush
yeah,
forward,
you want to
won't
stay
do
on
it.
like the edge of it.
So that gives you a little more time, but then the skeletons start to come, and then he pulls out the little sword thing, and when he has the sword, it's impossible to hit his ring. Like it never comes down to the ground enough for you to hit his ring, and so that was frustrating. And it was just, but nothing about that boss was good to me. I
Well,
hated everything about it.
I did not hate everything about it. I will admit that while I was playing it, and when I beat him, I remembered thinking, that was great for me, but if I hadn't played it at exactly that speed, it would have gotten really, really stupid at the end.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, that turned out being true for you. And, but the presentation of that boss was fantastic.
yeah.
The
it was really
the
cool.
cutscene that leads into it,
Yeah,
and he's right up in your face, just out of nowhere. God,
Yeah.
that was
you're right.
superb.
I'd actually completely forgotten about that because everything after it was so bad for me, which I hate. Like I do think that it's a situation where it's kind of like the same thing with the Abyss Walker or Watchers. You if you don't if it doesn't happen the way that it's designed to happen, you're gonna have a really bad time, and not in a way that's like I
Yeah,
never
it's
felt
not like frustrating, but persevere kind of hard.
yeah, it's not like, okay, I guess I need to do it this way then. It's like, well, what the fuck? It's like, well, I guess I have to. With the Abyss Watchers, it was especially annoying because, like I said, that second one never attacked the first one for me, and so I was just getting attacked by two for most of the time, and it felt like I was just getting unlucky half the time that I would die, and that always sucks because you don't want luck to be any factor in a Dark Souls game.
I
But,
guess. I mean, that is true of any boss fight where presentation is important. You have to let players beat them quick enough so that the presentation isn't lost on them. Like I was revisiting Mother 3, and I won't spoil the ending boss fight there, but I used some like speed up things in the emulator to see what happens if you waited long enough and something bad happened. And I it takes a while, and I realized that if you died in this fight, it would totally ruin the moment.
right.
It would be utterly lost. But the fight is balanced in a way such that if you're an attentive human being with a pulse, you could never fuck it up.
Yeah.
So
But that's not the way that these bosses
right,
are.
right, exactly. So this isn't just requiring a bare minimum from you. It actually requires attention and skill and proficiency in dodging and doing the right thing. And so when that's the case, I think presentation can often be lost. Like the presentation is strongest when I think you die about 3 or 4 times.
Depending on the boss, sure, yeah.
Yeah, unless it's a super difficult one where you can
Yeah.
ram your head up against it. But
Because like let's take Ornstein and Smell for an example. For me and for most people, I think hardest boss in Dark Souls.
they are the hardest boss in Dark Souls history for me.
Yeah,
Because that was the first game I played, and they were the hardest boss in there, and nothing since has been that difficult. That was the peak of the difficulty curve for me.
The gargoyles are actually the boss that I had the most difficulty in because I didn't
See,
know how
I
to play
keep
the
telling
fucking
you,
game.
you're just bad.
No, I had no idea how to play the game. I didn't know you could use your shield to block fire or anything. So I was just ramming my head against a wall with the gargoyles. I was also playing them probably way before I should have been because you don't have to fight them. I was just stubborn. But yeah. And so the thing about both of those fights actually is that you've got two enemies attacking you but their attack patterns are built in such a way that you can usually isolate one for long enough to get a hit in, and you're not going to get fucked by just being unlucky. And that's not how the Abyss Watchers, what are they? Watchers?
I disagree about the Abyss Watchers. I think they're totally manageable. All you have to do is run away.
That just wasn't my experience. Now, maybe, granted, I probably wasn't using all the arena space because I had a shit ton of souls that I didn't want to lose, and I was trying to stay near the entrance because it throws you right in, like, next to him. So if the souls were on the other end and I got really unlucky with both of them hitting me at the same time or something, I might not even make it to my souls. So I was kind of gimping myself a little bit there. But I just had a bad experience with them, and I don't blame myself for that one.
Well, don't worry, I blame you.
Okay. And I also don't blame myself for the Skeleton King either. Because
that I don't blame you for.
Yeah, that was fucked. But yeah, I don't know. That one felt unfinished to me. And then, like, part of this was just me probably looking for reasons to hate him because I was already frustrated about the ring getting in the rock and all that shit. But, like, if you watch the sword in his hand when he pulls out the sword, it's, like, totally fucked up and glitchy and not even in his hand. Like, the animations were all weird. Maybe he's just fucked up for me and no one else. I don't know. Because it was all weird.
I mean, the weird non-manageable size bosses in all of these games, they kind of break down once you start examining them too closely.
Yeah, and but for the most part, I don't like those boss fights.
Like what boss fights in particular?
But ones that are so big that, like...
Let's ignore Dark Souls 2's Ancient Dragon. What do you have in mind?
So for example, just in Dark Souls 3 alone, the big tree dude.
Okay, yeah.
Not a terrible boss, but there were some moments where it was like the animations are, you feel like you're getting stuck in a weird animation and shit, or like you're getting pulled in a weird way that, like, doesn't quite make sense just because it's such a huge boss. It's impossible to fight right. And then, like, you never have the full boss in your camera, and even the first boss, as much as I liked the first boss, the growth is so huge that it's hard to tell what the fuck is going on. It's in your face. You don't know what part of it hurts you and what part doesn't. It blocks the camera in a lot of cases. That's always been an issue with these games. Never a big deal for me.
That's one of the other things I want to mention. The camera is much better.
It is. Yeah.
I don't exactly know how, but
it's lower. It's lower in the boss fights. For the big ones.
Okay.
I mean, that's my assumption because that's what it seems like. That's like the first thing I noticed fighting the first boss was when he sprouted into the larger thing. It felt like the camera got, like, super low, and that helps a lot.
Just overall, it feels like the camera is solid now.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the camera anymore.
The camera and, like, just a lot of the jankiness that's always been a thing with the series with, like, weird lock on and that kind of thing. That's all seems like it's been improved, at least slightly. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm still not ruling out that I'm serious about it possibly being my game because I've had talk about first impressions. So I didn't have the bonfire glitch, or I thought I didn't have the bonfire glitch.
Oh shit! Okay, we got to talk about this.
Yeah, I got through the first two I got through Firelink Shrine completely, no issues. Except
I guarantee
for audio
you.
Issues.
I guarantee you, I have the worst experience possible with this.
I was having like the audio was blowing out and, like, didn't want to play more than a few channels at a time, I guess, because, like, I say I'd light a bonfire and it plays that kind of musical bit.
Yeah.
It would play that and everything else would get really low in volume and, like, kind of, like, fuzzy, and then it would stuff would, like, restart, like the ambient noise would restart. You could, like, hear it restarting from the beginning and shit. Weird stuff like that. Updating my drivers fixed it, thank God. And then when I got to the first big area after Firelink, I got through two of the bonfires there, and I got all the way around, and I was at very low health. I had a ton of souls from early game, and I found the shortcut elevator, and I was going up to the bonfire again. And that's when I got the crash. And luckily I could reload and keep my souls. But that was frustrating. And I was gonna wait for the patch, but then when I heard all you had to do is turn the lighting to low, I just fixed it that way. So what's your experience?
My experience is I had the common issues that many people have had, which is when you approach a bonfire, you crash.
Yeah, you either approach
if your lighting's not set to low. Yeah. So that I looked up, and you set your lighting to low, and it fixes it. The part of the problem is that if you don't remember to change it back when you relaunch the game, it doesn't save that you've set it to low, which is very, very strange.
Yeah.
But so that was one thing, a minor annoyance. But today,
I'll say mine. I have to mention mine was more than a minor annoyance because it would, at least the first time, it froze the entire computer. Couldn't alt tab.
That happened to me too. That happened to me too.
Yeah. So that was fucked. Like when games do that, I get so fucking mad.
Yeah.
It's like this should not happen.
Yep.
But anyway, go on.
Well, my thing was I was fighting a very difficult and intense late game boss. And there are very fancy lighting effects.
Oh no, really?
And I had been trying it several times. And I had him almost dead. And then freeze. Dark Souls 3.exe has crashed. And God fucking damn it. Like,
I'll tell you something.
I was really mad. I was really mad.
I'll tell you something that I think is even more frustrating because it seems like a deliberate choice. So yesterday I was playing, and luckily I was in a totally safe area, and I got kicked out of the game because it says Steam cannot connect to Steam servers, and Steam just goes down all the fucking time. Apparently, you cannot continue playing the game if the servers are down. You might be able to restart an offline mode.
That's bad. That's bad.
I didn't even try, but it boots you out.
That's really bad.
It's fucking terrible. And I mentioned it on Twitter, and someone responded and said, "Yeah, same thing just happened to me. I was about to beat a boss." And it's like, why the fuck does that need to be a thing? Like, that shouldn't happen.
And so if you're not in a boss, it's at least not so bad because
you can start again.
It restarts you exactly where you were. But in a boss,
and there's
especially the boss that I was fighting.
Yeah.
I finally wound up beating him, but I was furious. And I don't know. I'm usually willing to shrug off and work around PC glitches. I'm used to them over many, many years of playing games on the computer.
Well, this one's bad. I mean,
yeah, it is. But I'm just used to it by now. And so I get when a game crashes, and I know it sucks, but it's part of playing a game on a computer. But it really got to me. Like, I was totally willing to just brush it off until then.
Yeah.
But I can't describe. I can't fucking describe. Dude, that was terrible.
I totally believe you, and I disagree. Like, it's not like when it's a crash like this that's happening to a lot of people, and it's very consistent and reproducible. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be in a release period.
Especially in one that they gave to 50 million fucking people a week before it came out.
Yes. What the fuck?
Jesus Christ. If anything should not have survived that process, it's this specifically.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, crazy. Fucking crazy. And it was happening with the pre-release builds too, because I went back and I was watching a video about it. So, what the fuck? Come on. I couldn't
even notice a difference. I was in Firelink, and you know how the fire, it casts light on the walls and everything?
Yeah.
While I was trying to fix the problem, I was turning the lighting down, and one of the cool things about this game is that you can still see the game while you change settings, and you can see them change in real time, like on the edges of the screen. Yeah. And so I was paying attention, and then I exited the menu and tried to see what the real difference was. And I could not tell a difference between max quality lighting and low.
Maybe there is no difference. I mean, maybe that's the glitch. Maybe it's trying to do something it can't.
It's just so weird. But that is obviously still better than the original Dark Souls 1 PC release.
So the games for Windows Live, yeah.
But Dark Souls 2 still did it well.
Yeah. Bloodborne had some issues, but...
Well, Bloodborne's not PC.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's another thing. So, back on the Firelink thing, the way the game is structured on a basic level is that you'll be returning to Firelink a lot. You go there to level up, among many other things. You did that in Bloodborne 2, and when Bloodborne came out, the load times were agonizing.
It was unacceptably
They
bad,
took
yeah.
45 seconds to a minute to load the game, and it was just
Fucking
a
ridiculous.
blank screen that said Bloodborne, and that was it. And oh my god, it was mind-numbing. And they patched it, but it still takes about 30 seconds.
Ugh.
It's very long load times in that game. I don't play this game on consoles, but I know a lot of people are playing it on consoles.
I've heard it's pretty quick on consoles.
It's pretty quick? Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But still, one of the things that makes the warping back to Firelink design acceptable is that it takes place in 3 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's, I've got it installed on a solid state drive, so I don't know if that helps. But yeah, I never hesitate before traveling or anything because it's just so fast. So that is nice. It was stupid in Bloodborne.
Exactly. In Bloodborne,
Totally
you
stupid.
said you never hesitated. Oh man, I would hesitate.
In
I
Bloodborne,
would think,
Bloodborne-
I think this is a good time to take a piss. Like,
Yeah, exactly. In Bloodborne, I lost a lot of. What were they in Bloodborne? I forgot. The souls.
they were blood essence.
I lost
Blood
a lot
echoes. Blood echoes.
I
That's it.
lost a lot of blood.
They're
echoes.
souls. Whatever.
I
They're
lost
souls.
a ton of souls from getting to a lamp and saying, I don't want to go back to the fucking hub, so I'm just gonna keep going.
Right.
And that's fucked up. Just because of the loading screen. And then I remember I was having issues with the first area in Bloodborne. I remember discussing it on the podcast of apparently I was one of the only ones really having as much issues as I was, but I think I was kind of using.
Well,
a
you're
weapon I
just
shouldn't have
bad.
been using, and I was just bad, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I was struggling there, and the loading screen made it so much worse because every time I die, I was just like, well, here I go. I have to sit back and wait for. God, that was unacceptable. It's really bad that they get released that way, but hopefully that'll get patched out. Because that's probably my biggest complaint against the game right now. Or it's definitely my biggest complaint against the game right now is just the technical issues.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
And that's why the game is suffering from a pretty low Steam rating right now.
sure.
I checked the negative reviews, and all of them are about technical issues.
Yeah, and I mean I can't
don't blame 'em.
people for
Absolutely.
I agree with the if you can't play the game, that's a bad review.
Yep.
So yeah, fucking that sucks. All right,
And a lot of this stuff, only time will tell how good it is. But so far, for me, it's been super consistently great.
I've had the impression of like Dark Souls 1's online scene, and even single player scene lasted it's still going on. People are still playing through that game. And I've already had the feeling, and I'm talking, this is still very early game for me, 6 to 8 hours in. I've already had the feeling multiple times, oh man, I'd love to try doing this with a different class.
Yep.
I'm playing
Me too.
I'm playing a mostly strength-based, but pretty even, totally physical
Yeah,
build.
I'm going quality
No
build,
magic.
personally.
So I'd be very interested to go through as a pyromancer or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like there's a lot more spells and stuff to buy and
Yeah,
unlock
And they added a magic meter back from Demon Souls, except now you
Yeah,
also
it's
use
not
weapon
magic.
arts from there.
Yeah, we didn't
it's
even
focused.
mention that. That's
It's
a pretty
cool.
big. I haven't used it a lot just because I'm not.
I haven't used it much either, but I've just started to now,
Yeah.
just because of how difficult some of the bosses are getting, and it's just cool that you now have this finite meter that you can spend a little bit of to just get a slightly more optimal punish on a
Yeah.
boss's paws. I can do 250 damage here instead of 190.
And that's not just the only all the weapons have depending on the weapon type have different special abilities. And some of them are pretty interesting, and
Yeah.
I think are going to apply to PvP in a really interesting way.
There are things that we're not used to using, but they're part of the game.
Yeah, there's like a scythe, I think, or it looks kind of like a scythe. It's a sickle, I guess, where you use that to like get behind the other person really quickly or something to like try to backstab them. And like I can see that being a thing in PvP for sure. And then like most of the weapons for the special ability, it's just a shield break, which
Yeah.
that's the perfect addition to Dark Souls because like it's kind of easy if you've got a ton of armor and a great shield and poise to just block everything.
Tank stuff. Yeah.
And
And
it's
then the
always
kick
been
isn't usually the best way to deal with
it's
it.
hard to kick, and I feel like the kick is worse in Dark Souls 3 than it's ever been.
I
But
don't
that's
think
kind of
so.
okay because you've got the shield break. I haven't been able to use the kick effectively.
I use the
haven't
kick
used it.
more
Really
than I have
haven't
ever.
used it.
Like, shielded enemies seem to be more vulnerable. Because, okay, the people in Anne Orlando, not the people, but the massive golems with the shields, you can't kick them. And,
sure.
you know, there's either tiny shield people that you can just wait for an opening, or there's huge shield people that you can't do anything
Right.
about. This game has more, like, mid-size, much bigger than you enemies that you can kick and find an opening through that. Like, the kick, I found, is consistently more useful in this game.
I guess I just haven't had to use it yet, really. There's only one enemy. There's a I think it was an NPC. I don't think it was a player. There was an invasion enemy that had a big ass shield and a lot of poise, and I got fucked by him. And I probably should have tried kicking because I was getting destroyed.
We should PvP, and you know,
that'd be fun.
one of the cool things about this game, and I looked this up to make sure it was true because I heard it through the grapevine and I needed to confirm it. It scales stats down to whoever
okay.
So anyone of any level can just, like, if you put your password in, you can just play with each other, and you're on equal playing field.
That's a Dark Souls 2 thing, I think. I think Dark Souls 2 did that.
No, Dark Souls 2 had soul memory, and it was
But didn't it also
super
scale?
finicky thing. No.
Chat confirmed that because I like specifically remember that being a thing, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, maybe it did, but
I liked Dark Souls
this time
2's
it's a
PvP
workable
though,
solution.
actually.
I liked it too, because it worked, but even then it was still worse than this game. In
Yeah,
that game, you
definitely.
put your sign down, and then it was usually about like a 45-second window before somebody could pick it up. This time it is like instant almost.
Yeah, I've had some pretty good. So like I've only had actually a few player encounters, but the first one kind of sucks because I was already being invaded by an NPC. It was a magic caster, and then a player invades too, and so they just gang up on me. And as he's doing, like I felt like I could take him 1v1 pretty easily, but then I was just getting fucked by magic from off screen, and that sucked. And then the second one was in the catacombs. Someone invaded me, and I don't think they had any idea what they were doing. I completely destroyed them.
The catacombs is a fun place to invade. That was one of the first places I think the first place I got invaded, just because I wasn't in Ember form very much.
Yeah.
And me and that guy, we were fighting in that first little square space that you go into, and we were both Essing a lot, and then he ran away, and I chased him all around the bridges, and then we went into that space, and then I chased him to the edge of this ledge, and then he fell off, and I fell off trying to attack him, and we both died, but I won. It was great. Like,
that's how I beat that really hard katana dude next to the Firelink Shrine.
Oh yeah.
I was before I even went to the first area, I was trying to kill him just because I'm stubborn.
Right.
And I was getting fucked because he will do like 6 fast attacks with that thing that just destroy you. And I couldn't figure out what the fuck to do to beat him. And finally I just kind of was fighting him near a ledge and kept kicking him and stuff. I guess that is like pretty much the only time I've used kick because I definitely kicked him off the ledge. But I also went off the ledge with him. but he went off first, so I came back and his stuff was waiting for me there on the ledge. So I'll count that as a win, even though I probably only took down about 10% of his health.
Yeah.
When did you kill? Did you kill him at the beginning? Because I know
killed him at
killed
the
the
very
werewolf in Bloodborne, so I figured you would kill him too.
I killed the werewolf in Bloodborne my first fucking try.
Yeah. I
went out there with my fists
and
and
you were real proud of that.
I was.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking good game.
A really
What else
good
is there
game.
to say about it?
I don't think there's much to say more. We've been going for
Well, there
about an
probably
hour and a
is,
half.
but
But what I'd like to do is to do an after show. And this is how I like to do it. And maybe you don't have time, but I would like to stream on both our Twitches, and people can go to one or the other depending on what part of the game they want
On
to look at,
PvP?
and we just continue to talk about it.
Okay.
Well, we can PvP too, but
I think we should PvP. Yeah.
okay, yeah, we can do
You'll
that.
destroy me, but
Well, maybe not, because it scales me
if
down.
it scales, yeah. But you're still probably a lot better than I am. Whatever.
All right, well, guys,
I'm down for that.
thanks for listening to Push to Shout.
Oh, I have one more thing.
Okay, go
It's
ahead.
not Dark
Go
Souls
ahead. Go ahead.
related. I guess news. Mirror's Edge 2. There's some footage of that out right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know when it's getting released, but they're having a. This is weird. It's a single player game. They're having a beta period where like you can play like the first few hours of the game in a
That
single player,
seems
like a
wrong.
single player beta. It's a marketing thing, I think. But it actually seems pretty cool.
Okay.
It's different. It's open world, which I think a lot of people are gonna hate.
Metal Gear
It's-
Solid 5 kind of turned me off to open world.
They've turned it into a bit of a Metal Gear Solid 5 is a great comparison, actually. Like where Metal Gear Solid 5 was linear, a story kind of thing. Now, and then in 5 it opened up to an open world, and then like you're buying unlocks and that kind of thing. That seems kind of the direction that they're going with Mirror's Edge, where it's like you're unlocking certain abilities and stuff. I actually think that that's fine, but people really, really cherish the first game, so I think it's going to make a ton of people really mad. And I understand that, but I disagree. I think it's fine.
One of the things I didn't like about the pre-release press for that is they said, well, people had a problem with combat in the first Mirror's Edge. So I was expecting the end of that sentence to be like, so we removed it, but it was actually, so we made it better. And, that's fine, but that game doesn't need combat. It just doesn't. It doesn't need it.
I think
The parkour was everything.
yes, but I don't think you can make that kind of game without combat or anything.
I think
And
you
sell it
can.
for $60 on today's market.
Well, that's true.
That's kind of
From a
insane to
market
me.
perspective, you can't. But from a making of a game perspective, you should and can.
Yeah, if you made like a $40 game or something like that, it would be very, very, very game without combat. That's parkour only. That's $60. Like that's insanity, and I don't even know if I would enjoy that because I feel like I would get really tired of the parkour needs to be an element of the gameplay, not the entire gameplay, unless it's super, super, super fleshed out, which would be a different game than what Mirror's Edge was. Because Mirror's Edge, I mean, the parkour stuff was great, especially for its time, but it wasn't enough to be a game on its own, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe at the time, but now I don't think so. There's enough games that do interesting traversing and stuff that you'd have to make a completely different kind of game, which would be cool, but maybe wouldn't be Mirror's Edge 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the combat's probably fine. It doesn't look like a lot of people were afraid that they would go like, you could shoot more guns now, and I don't think
It's like Mirror's Edge with guns.
yeah, I mean, Mirror's Edge, you could shoot guns, but I think that they've kind of kept the idea of like you go and you beat the shit out of people, which it's fun if it's done well, and I don't know, I can't tell if it's done well or not. I haven't watched very much of it or anything, but I don't know. I that's my opinion on it. I think it looks fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't clamoring for a Mirror's Edge sequel. A lot of people were, but Mirror's Edge 1 was great.
It was satisfying in itself.
And I don't think it needs a sequel. But I love the thing that's so good about those games is the art style. I love that, like the clean city look. I think that looks really
Yes.
cool. DICE does a really good job with like their engine and everything. They really bringing out like a really, really cool environment with that. But anyway, let's go play Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls 3, people. So on twitch.tv/Brutalcum Powder Salt, or what is yours?
Skippy Sigmatic.
Skippy Sigmatic. I didn't know if there was a
I
V
think.
in there.
Might be Sigmatic Skippy. I think it's Skippy Sigmatic.
But tune in, people,
Definitely.
and thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Good night.